What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Well. I love being right. Hee hee. Um, Looks like another prediction in the bank. I was successful with my prediction. That was Gennady Golovkin, Triple G versus Curtis Showtime Stevens. I told y'all. I told you what would happen. Um, I want to break down the fight, give you my perspective, the ego post fight, and it was entertaining. I was entertaining. Golovkin is he's a monstrous fighter. I think a lot of people have him coined as purely a pressure fighter because he has devastating punching power, but he shows a lot more elements of his game than other pressure fighters who just kind of come forward. Like if you pit him against someone in another division, like a Ruslan Provodnikov, they still don't show all the fundamentals of adapting like Gennady Golovkin. So hell of a performance from Triple G. I think my prediction was pretty close. I think I said he gets stopped in maybe round 7 or 8, and that's what happened. His corner stopped it. I think it was a good stoppage. Curtis Stevens. Let's talk about Curtis Stevens. Curtis Stevens throughout this fight was pissing me off. I picked Gennady Golovkin to win. I was right. However, I felt Curtis Stevens had certain skills that could possibly put Gennady Golovkin in a predicament and test Gennady Golovkin, which is really what I wanted to see. I knew he had the height disadvantage, which I told you would be a problem, and I told you in my prediction video that Gennady Golovkin has a very stiff, mean jab that puts fighters in their place, and he used it. He used it in this fight. Um, One thing I like back to Gennady Golovkin, one thing that I like that I really feel, I feel this fight more than other fights really shows Gennady Golovkin's amateur experience. He knew he was in there with a fighter who had firepower himself, and I think he was faster. Curtis Stevens was faster than maybe he anticipated from watching tape because Curtis Stevens has kind of like sneaky, deceptive speed. He's not like Amir Khan with the hand speed, but he has quick counters, quick reflexes, just like a lot of African American fighters. And I think that caught Gennady Golovkin off guard. Plus, Stevens is a puncher, and he knew that. However, Stevens was pissing me the fuck off. Like I said, I think he could have made it more competitive and perhaps stole some rounds because it was really a shutout. It was a Gennady Golovkin shutout. There were spots, keyword spots, and I don't judge a fight based on spots. I judge a fight based on the entirety, the whole round. You have to do good in the whole round. Like, how do you do throughout? Majority, not just spots. But there were a couple spots where Curtis Stevenson looked real explosive and he kind of exploded. It looked like he was playing possum. And then he came up off the ropes and he started walking Golovkin down and exploding with shots and landing some clean shots flush. And I'm like, yes, this is a fight. Come on. But Stevens, he just didn't do enough. He never let his fucking hands go, which was pissing me off. In a fight like that with a fighter like Gennady Golovkin, he's bringing his A game. He's trying to knock you out. I can look in Gennady Golovkin's face, in his eyes, that he's trying to knock you out. I see that. I see the determination in his facial expressions, in his facial features as he's hitting you. He's punching with bad intentions, especially since Curtis Stevens had so much to talk about. He had so much trash talking with the tombstones and rest in peace Gennady Golovkin and everything leading up to this fight. Golovkin wanted it bad. And Curtis Stevens, props to Curtis Stevens for not getting knocked out completely, like just knocked out cold. He weathered an early storm. He was knocked down in round 2, and he weathered that storm, and it ended in a corner stoppage. But that just shows you the monstrous punching power of Gennady Golovkin, because when he knocked fucking Curtis Stevens down, that motherfucker looked like woo, like it was almost like a face that I could picture Will Smith making in like Bad Boys, like woo. Now that's how you're supposed to drive. That's kind of the face he was making as he hit the canvas. I was like, fuck, this dude must really have bricks for hands. He was really must have laid something on him because Curtis Stevens looked fucked up. I didn't think he would necessarily be able to recover from that. So props to Stevens for being game. Again, he never really pulled the trigger. And in a fight with a fighter like Gennady Golovkin, from what I've seen, getting knocked out is definitely an option. You have to go there fearless almost, knowing that, hey, in order to win this, I'm going to have to dig down deep because I'm going to have to walk through fire, take these punches, possibly take something. but hopefully, I can land something of significance and hurt him. And I don't think Stevenson. I think he like kind of let off the gas once he started feeling the power of Golovkin. He kind of started fighting timid, fighting scared, and everything was all his moves and turned from offense to mostly defense. He wasn't even like countering that much. So I expected a sharper Stevens that would actually produce maybe some more oh shit moments. Again, there was a couple spots where he landed some good shots on Golovkin. Golovkin actually showed some more of that amateur background by causing Stevens to miss, who is a quick counter puncher. So that was good. Gennady Golovkin, as always, had a great time cutting off the ring on Stevens. And Curtis Stevens was just pissing me off. Like sometimes I wish I could go through the fighter's mind and really determine, like I wish it was a video game or something where I could take a hold of the controller, like Curtis Stevens can give me the controller and I can play for him or I can fight for him. Because again, I think Curtis Stevens had certain intangibles, certain skills that he could have put to better use against Golovkin. He didn't really establish a jab. He stayed on the outside far too long. Like as just looking at the two fighters, Golovkin is a longer fighter. His arms, his legs, everything looks lankier than Stevens. Stevens looks really like just built and compact and short, kind of like a Tyson, real stocky body. And he was letting Golovkin jab his fucking life away. And he didn't really establish a jab. He was staying on the outside of Golovkin's punches. Golovkin was measuring, which is cool that the ref caught on to that. He was measuring them and keeping them at the end of his punches. But those are little sneaky, subtle veteran tricks. And you're going to do it as long as you can before you get a point deducted or before you get exposed and caught with it, and then you have to stop doing it altogether. So Golovkin, you could tell he has amateur background and just fighting experience because he knows little veteran tricks to size up and leave the glove out there longer, to use his arm length advantage over Stevens. So overall, Stevens, I give him props for stepping in the ring with such a fierce puncher. But as much shit as he was talking, I expected just a sharper Stevens, a sharper version of Stevens. I didn't expect it was much of the same. Like if you look at Gennady Golovkin's recent fights against Rosado, against Macklin, you see these guys and they feel the power of Golovkin, and then they kind of become like tortoises in a shell, and they kind of revert to survival mode. And you can't do that. Once he knows he has your number, he's going to put it on you. So props to Golovkin and Stevens for being very conditioned, because some of that shit, Stevens was getting hellacious body shots to his body, and I was surprised he didn't get knocked down from one of those body shots, and he was still standing when he was standing. So I think it was a great stoppage. Gennady Golovkin made a big statement with that. At the end, he called out Sergio Martinez and Peter Quillin. Max put him on the spot and forced him basically to pick who he wants to fight or call out somebody basically, which kind of takes it away. Like Golovkin was just being cool about it and didn't really want to call anyone out, but Max reiterated and pretty much made him call somebody out, which is kind of whack. I like when fighters, like when Juan Manuel Marquez was just like, I want Mayweather, I want to fight him. Like he just said it at the end of his Juan Diaz fight. So it's not as impactful when the fighter's being kind of coaxed into saying something. But I'm glad Gennady Golovkin did not call out Floyd Mayweather. I think they're legitimate fights in his division with legitimate fighters, and those fights definitely need to be taking place before. We don't even know what Golovkin's going to look like at 154. We don't know if we can make it other than him saying, I want to fight Mayweather at 154. If that's the case, move down to 154, fight Canelo. Like, I don't know if it's not just about a payday. I just don't, like I said, I think there's business to handle in your own division, and I don't really give fighters props for picking on the smaller guy. And I'm not saying Mayweather would win or lose, because I don't really know how Golovkin will perform at 154, if he can even make the fight, the promoter issues. So there's a lot of stuff. So props to Golovkin for calling out people in his own division. I really like that. And Golovkin, he's a threat, man. He's a beast. He's coming with bad intentions. He set foot on American soil, and he wants his name to stick around for quite some time. I really want to see him fight somebody like a Sergio Martinez, Peter Quillin, or Chavez Jr. And all those fights for different reasons. I want to see how he does against someone who's around his height in Sergio Martinez. It looks like speed has the potential to bother him. Curtis Stevenson was kind of showing that. I want to see him fight a fighter like Chavez Jr. because Chavez Jr. is big as fuck and has a chin, and he goes to the body. So I want to see how Golovkin would respond to a big puncher who's about his size, who's not shorter than him. I think Chavez Jr. might be like 6 foot, maybe even 6'1", and he's just overall fucking big, and he has his dad's chin. So I would love to see that fight. In the future, if he can clean out the 160-pound division, I would love to let him build up his name at 160, fight the Quillins, the Martinez, if he gets past those guys, Chavez Jr., then make a huge fight with Andre Ward if Andre Ward keeps winning. Basically, if both fighters keep winning. So really looking forward to the future of Gennady Golovkin. I let you know, I think way back in January, he was a person to be on the lookout for, and it looks like I was right. As far as Curtis Stevens, I'll definitely watch him in the future. He showed heart in front of his Brooklyn crowd, but it just wasn't enough. He never really let his hands go, and his corner was giving him good advice. He just really didn't use it. And I guess it's easy for any of us to sit behind a computer or type and say, oh, you should have did this and that, when we're not the ones taking these punches. But I had a great night in boxing, and I'm looking forward to Gennady Golovkin's next opponent. They said it's in February in Monte Carlo again, so I don't know if they're going to get just another scrub. But from here on out, I want to see Gennady Golovkin fight 160-pound ranked fighters. I mean, as far as the Gay Rosado's moving up from 154, or Sheeta's moving up from 154, he's clearly too powerful for those dudes, for guys moving up in weight and stuff like that. Now let's start weeding it out and getting into like some of the finer competition, the Gills, the Sergio Martinez, the Quillins, the Chavez Jr. All those people possess different things, and I want to see how he responds to those different styles. So a lot can actually happen. I actually wouldn't mind a Rosado rematch because Rosado looks more acclimated to the 160-pound division with the Jay Leon Love performance and the Peter Quillin performance. So if they did decide to make that like in Monte Carlo, I would watch that, just because Rosado, I feel like he's not always given a fair shake with his fights. The Jay Leon Love fight, the Quillin stoppage, I think they should have gave him more time, his corner more time to work on the cut and that kind of thing. But I would definitely entertain a rematch if they felt the need to make that. Gennady Golovkin kind of beat him down, but an early cut was open, so that kind of changes the whole course of events. So let me know what you guys think of Gennady Golovkin and the post fight. What do you think of the boxing card? Let me tell you, that heavyweight bout, the first bout, fuck, I was in heaven. Like, the heavyweights were really scrapping, the Russian and the Cuban. Shit, great night of boxing. As always, hate, comment, or subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.